Calling the October 13th, I'm sorry, yes, October 13th Criminal Justice Committee meeting to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hess?
Present.
Mr. Long?
Present.
Mr. Lear? Mr. Snipes? Ms. Peters? Ms. Parker?
Present.
Mr. Fairfield?
Present.
Mr. Carrico?
Present.
Mr. Eckhoff? Mr. Swanson?
Present.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Present.
Mr. Hunter? Mr. Collins? Mr. Smith?
Present.
Mr. Gowler?
Present.
Mr. Wheeler?
Present.
Mr. Searoy? We have a quorum.
Thank you. I have no notification of public comment. Anybody out here for public comment? Very good. Moving on to approval of minutes. Everyone got a copy of their minutes? Very good. Do I have a second on that? Joe Swanson, second. All in favor of those minutes?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Judicial, Judge Kramer, not here today. Okay, moving on. Circuit Clerk's Office, Sandy Ciance, come on up. Good morning, Sandy.
Good morning.
You brought some extra paperwork with you this morning.
Yes, I did. So
Everybody got one of these?
for my normal report, if you don't have any other questions on those, you know, our balances for the collections has been greater year to year this year than it has been in several years in the past. This last couple months have been slight for our area for this time, but overall we've done better in collections. So if there's no questions about those, we can jump right into the digitization.
Okay.
I have two estimates here, or quotes, and if you didn't get them, there's hard copies in the back. Eric, would you mind bringing some to those that didn't get them yet? I see people that are, thank you.
Two different pages.
There's a several page one and then a single page one. There's a single page one and then there's a booklet. So I'll start with the single page one. That is a company called Com Microfilm, and they're in Springfield, Illinois. They're a small company, and he came and he saw what I had, and I gave him all the measurements. That's how they like to estimate what they're doing, and they believe that there's going to be 3,780,000 images to scan, and the bottom line for him was $375,510.40. They do not have a location where they would store the documents on site. That's an important thing for us, because in the transition of getting all the files down there, we need to have someone be able to access a document if someone comes in and requests records. So with Excella is who I've used in the past, and on the probably the fourth page, there are references: Will County, Rock Island County, Winnebago, Coles, LaSalle, McHenry, McLean, Monroe, Montgomery, Morgan, and I know DuPage uses them. So they are in the old Air Force Base in Rantoul, and they have a very secure building, and it's humidity and temperature controlled on top of it. So this is what their plans to do. What they do is they'll take all the files, they will have the room to store them, and then they will pick, like, so if you can see, they've got it divided up according to case type. So like the J cases, they think there's 223 boxes, and so what they'll do is they'll pull them all apart, take all the staples out, they'll scan everything, they're going to image them, and they're going to put them on an external hard drive that I can then use to input. If and when we ever go to a new case management system, we'll be able to input it right back into the case management system. And then they will microfilm. Those are the rules that I have to do. I sent Chairman Wheeler the rules that I have to follow, and they're 14 pages long. So there's a lot of things that we have to cover for each case type. And so that's why, as you see, as it goes down, they talk about how many boxes there are of everything. And at the bottom, his price is $312,453.64. And that's who I've used in the past, and I would like to still continue to use. And I've called everywhere. I've called several places. I called the place that the coroner has gone to, and they don't do microfilm. There was a couple other names that were forwarded to me, a couple other businesses. I checked with them, and they don't do microfilm. And for me to move forward without scanning it and putting it back into the system, I have to have it microfilmed. Everything except small claim cases and the minor traffic tickets. So DUIs have to be microfilmed as well. We have, let's see, what else do I want to talk about? Does anybody have any questions? And then I can go from there. So, yes.
Does, I don't have a copy, does it include indexing?
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay.
So what will happen is he will take just use the J cases for example. So yes, they will be indexed with the case number. So it'll be the year, the designation, and the actual number. So, 2009 J15. And then we would get in the external hard drive. That's how we would find it. So, and then it would have the name too.
So it has to be searched by the case number. It can't be searched by keywords.
It would be able to, the name. Yeah, we could do that too.
The names and the case number. So who's going to be in charge of the shipping? Would this company?
They come and get it all. That's all included. So the picking it up, storing it, microfilming, digitizing it, putting it in the hard drive, shredding it is all the whole package deal. It's everything.
And a little more explanation about the microfilming and you said 14 pages of requirements. Tell me about that. Where does that come from? Who says that?
The Supreme Court, the Illinois Supreme Court has the rules, and they've set up the Clerk of the Court Act, and then they also have set up the Manual on Record Keeping. So there's rules for every case type. We have something different to do with every case type. And you're going to get these thumb drives now. Well, no, it's not going to be a thumb drive. It's an external hard drive.
Okay.
So it'll be terabytes of information rather than gigabytes.
Okay. And what else might we need to know about that? What's the time frame?
He feels that he would, if they picked it up, say in November or December, that they should be done with it all by about March or April.
Okay. Any other questions out there? Ms. Parker, what is your number over there?
Chairman. Sandy, I'm scanning through this, and there's a page of risk at different levels. Can you explain why this page is in here, and what do we mean by risk? Is it to personnel or to the files themselves?
Oh, this first page here?
No, there's a whole page of risk. It's before the summary of the project numbers. There's not a page number on it. It says Circuit Court File Risk Mitigation Justification, about them walking through security, walk through the courthouse to clerks. Like there's 7 general public safety risk, and then another 7 court staff.
Okay, so in other words, because people are touching the files and they're also in the basement, this is just his protocol that he's set up for every clerk's office that he's talked about, so that it's the justification for the ARPA funds or the COVID money funds. He didn't outline to me what the 7 actual general, well, here they are. public safety entering through security, public walking through the courthouse, public requesting for the files at the counter, touching the files. These are all the risks of people touching the files, coughing on them, sneezing on them, that kind of a thing.
We talked about the physical files.
Correct. And that's why you're digitizing them, so then they would be available.
Any other questions out there? Mr. Hunter, what number are you?
Madam Clerk, I realize that you are independently elected, and that's your domain in terms of that office, in terms of oversight and how you run it. And I know there have been ongoing meetings with you and Chief Judge, Chairman Wheeler, State's Attorney, et al. I have several questions, and you've had a myriad of issues that you have discussed in terms of improving and enhancing the service delivery of your office. Regarding your recommendation for this company, Excella, and you said you've had some experience with them, has this proposal that which you're submitting been vetted or been discussed with the group of people that I just mentioned?
No.
Any particular reason why not?
Because they've never been involved in the decision-making on the process of what I do. Mr. Rowe, and I've had other people come in and take a tour, and they know what I have, but they don't know the process or why I do what I do.
Okay, but I thought, now, tell me if I'm wrong, because facts don't lie. What I'm saying is that I was under the impression that you guys meet on an occasion regarding the service delivery of your office. Is that correct? Okay, but
Among other things, yeah.
okay, but that's the antithesis of what you just said. I'm not trying to cross-examine you, but I would have thought, as crucial as this is, that this matter would have been discussed in that group. But be that as it may, I noticed that there are the references which you cited in terms of other counties on whatever page this is here, references. Now, I appreciate that. Have you actually talked with the circuit clerks and those respective
We've all been on
counties?
a tour together. Excella has had us, the clerks down more than once. I've brought staff down there twice at least, and we've taken the full tour, and it's about a half-a-day tour. I mean, it's an extensive tour, and yeah, they have no problems with this company. I mean, Winnebago is a huge county, and Tom Klein, we've talked all about it all the time. And Andrea Chastain from Will County is another huge county. Rock Island is a pretty good sized county. And there was a business out west in the western part of the state, and they've closed. And another clerk from Warren County, she has now started coming to Excella because the company on the western side of the state has closed.
Okay, my final question. Can you give me 5 good reasons why we should approve this request?
Because I've used them before, I know the quality that they have. It's going to make a lot of room in the basement so that we can do other things with the basement. It will make the records easier to be accessed. And,
Access? Okay.
So what is that? Is that 4?
That's cool.
4? Is that good enough?
And it'll help your whole chart.
Well, and you're saying to us, it'll help with the service delivery of your services.
Yes. Because when we would need to look for a file, it'll be in one location. That's another problem we have. If it's already scanned in and it's done, then we can just access it. We don't have to go to the basement and hunt it down and bring it back up, and it takes another 10 or 15 minutes just to get that done.
Thank you.
One of the other questions that came up in some of the other discussions was about the access off-site from the courthouse? Is that gonna make it accessible?
Yes, what we've done with them in the past and what they will do still now, it's kind of like when you go to any big warehouse, and I mean, it's stacked up 20 feet, and so the little machine will go up and pick the file. So somebody will take the order, go find the file, come back, they'll scan it in, and they used to fax it to us, but now they're gonna send it in here. It says they'll send it in a secured email, so that, you know, we would have a password to open it up, so it wouldn't be anything that could be hacked even through email.
So I guess my question was, one of the judges, one of the attorneys, someone who has the right to the access to the information, would they be able to go in and ask for that as well?
They would come to us, yeah, and then we would ask for it, and then we would get it same day.
So the files are not actually kept on site here?
Correct.
They're
They'll
kept in Rantoul?
Yes. It's an amazing, it's an amazing process and an amazing building that they have.
Okay. Any other questions out there? Mr. Lear, what number are you?
12.
Thank you.
I'm a little trying to figure out in terms of the total cost of this project. There seems to be several places where this project makes reference to possibilities. For example, on the single sheet, next to the bottom, it says, we believe you have about 79,200 pounds at a cost per pound. If it exceeds that amount, then the total cost of this project would go up. In the packet, there's a reference to the fact that on the last page, the letter size file folder, above numbers are only estimates, actual amounts will vary.
So what they,
Are we gonna have a solid number, or do we need to have a up to a number?
we had talked about an up to number. I talked to John from Excella yesterday about that. Part of the reason that we do the estimate is because in the folders, there's a lot of judge's notes and other things that aren't required to be microfilmed or preserved, and so actually it'll probably be less than what the total is, but we can't be sure. The other part that what he was talking about is, I told him that we don't have very many files that are not of the size that he's talking about. Pre-1984, the files were in a, like the legal sized, you know, they were the 14 inches long paper, and then after 84 it became the 8.5 by 11. So he's unsure of how many files we have prior to that. I didn't see any in there, but his assumption from not being here, you know, he's just taking the measurements that I gave him. So he's trying to safeguard his estimation so that if there are any. But back in the 90s when I worked here, Monica Bauer had a group of senior citizens down there, and they were down in the basement, and they were doing the microfilming. So I remember the onion skin paper and that kind of stuff. They were the ones microfilming that old stuff. And I am 98% sure that we have 0 onion skin paper, and that's kind of what else he's talking about too, because that takes more time and effort and to get that scanned and digitized. Their machines that they digitize stuff are huge. You know, you think you're at a huge print shop or whatever, and but with the onion skin paper they would have to take a little more time and because it's delicate, and we don't have any of that, or if we do, it's a very, very small amount. So
Any other questions out there?
Thank you. Sandy, for my own satisfaction, is there a possibility that you will meet and discuss this, you know, thoroughly with the people I mentioned earlier?
I could, but I
mean-
don't see the reason to do that.
Okay, but why have you met with them before on
For
a myriad of issues?
Just courthouse business and how things go in the courthouse, in how our offices relate to one another.
Yeah, okay. And does this relate to the other?
This is under my domain.
I understand. But what you do impacts these other folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, maybe you don't get it. Okay. Is there any ongoing training necessary for your staff? None whatsoever? In terms of how this stuff works?
Nope.
Have you explained this to them at
They
all?
use it already. They use the we have a microfilm machine that we use daily. If it's digitized, then all we would have to do is go into the case management system that we have and look it up. I
So
mean,
that
it's
there's nothing else that your staff needs to know about this process?
nothing.
Okay.
And then the other thing I forgot to mention, I have the a young man that's in the electricians union. They do special service projects, and they have volunteered to be the ones to come in and box up the files for me. So what happens is Excella even sends us the boxes, because for OSHA requirements, they need to be a certain size and weight. So they prefer to have their boxes, and then they know how to measure and what van or truck to send up. So I'm gonna get these guys together, and gals, whoever they are, and they'll do the boxing up for me, so it won't be.
And you'll give us an update every month on this?
Yep, and that's the other thing, thank you for saying every month. They will only bill us as they go along, so as they finish. So say if they start with the J cases, and then if they finish the J cases and then go into the sealed expunged cases, whatever they do, then they'll bill us monthly. They won't expect money ahead of time.
Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sandy, could you explain the discussion we had, or at least the end result of how you intend to utilize special funds in combination with ARPA funds to comply with the policies that we've passed at the full board level regarding ARPA funds?
So what I'm doing is I'm using as much out of my document storage fund that I can, and then Chairman Wheeler said that as long as we leave, he's gonna leave $25,000 in that fund, and then anything after that would go from the ARPA, right? Is that how?
Yes, it was utilize your special funds without
Correct.
kneecapping your office, the salaries you pay out of there. That was kind of what we were
Correct,
saying to all
'cause
the
I-
departments. And,
Right.
And so if anybody's thinking, well, what about the recorder's request? We have the same understanding with the recorder's office, and we'll hear about that in community service.
Yeah, because I'm putting 300,000 still back into the budget for salaries. So,
So this would be a not to exceed number. We can determine what that would be. It allows us to get the files out of the basement so we can start the large construction project,
correct,
because they have to be moved. We'd rather not move them into another storage place locally.
right,
And now that we have an understanding between Sandy and myself, and hopefully the board, and then also with the use of the COVID money for this, the ARPA money proper, not lost revenue. This would be so people don't have to come into the courthouse to get these digital files.
Correct.
The arrangement would be you can securely send them to them. They
Correct.
can, whatever, mail them thumb drives, whatever has to happen.
correct,
But it's a digital exchange instead of a hand-to-hand pass-off.
correct,
So I thought that would be helpful.
yes, thank you.
Mr. Snipes, what number are you, 14?
Yes, 14.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In leadership, they always say compliment before you critique. And so I want to compliment your staff and compliment you on doing what you do. My critique is what I have been probably critiquing since 1990, but more so in this new millennium. And that is, I don't believe that you all have enough space. And I believe that all of the crunching and things that they have to do, and then them having to go downstairs and do a file, get a file, and you gotta wait 15 minutes to come back up, and you're on a lunch break or whatever, you know, it's, it's time consuming on one end, but the thing is, your office still comes up every day with that smile of how can I help you?
Thank you.
And the whole 9 yards. So with that being said, the only critique that I would basically have is that me in a work environment, I believe in space, and they are in a tight, right, space or whatever. So I have to appreciate the fact that they do what they basically do, so you can take that compliment back to them or whatever, because when I view them as I sit in courts and view them or wherever, you're there to kind of monitor and kind of see things for yourself. You become the eyewitness, and I am the eyewitness or whatever that they continue to step up to the plate, even under the restrictions that are there in place or whatever that they really have nothing to do with. So to digitize this, if it gives you just an inch more space, to me, it's a plausible effort, and I will support it.
Thank you. And that's another thing, I'll be able to move some of the rolling carts out, and then I will be able to create more space in the office that I have, in the main office anyway, so that'll help too.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions out there? All right. That's
Okay.
the end of your report.
yeah, it is.
And I got,
We would need
Mr.
a
Wheeler.
motion to send it to finance with some sort of recommendation out
Okay.
of this committee.
is there a motion out there? Mr. Snipes? Second, Mr. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Clarification,
Go ahead.
that it's a not to exceed at 315.
That's fine.
Is that a fair number?
Mm-hmm.
Not to, that's a,
Well, it's rounding it up,
it's rounding it up in case we have more than we
$1,500.
think.
Yeah,
Then we don't have to come all the way back through the whole process again.
right.
And by the way, if it's billed monthly, at least that's when that stops, and we can come back and
Correct,
revote again if we get to that number.
correct. Or figure out how it'll get it done, yes.
And if approved through finance and county board, how soon are they willing to start?
As soon as we back some up. And, you know, I can make that plan. It could be as early as next month, probably.
That'd be great.
So, yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Hess?
15, thank you, Chairman. Should the motion be out of the ARPA funds, seeing she's already using the funds, up to 315 out of ARPA funds? She'll use up her money
Okay.
on her document storage fee, and then up to 315,000 in the ARPA funds.
Okay. So we had the people who made the motion, Mr. Snipes and Mr. Smith, are we willing to accept that?
Yes, I thought that when we sent it on to finance, they would kind of have that determination, because we're just moving it on so that they can
With our
examine it.
recommendation.
So, but that's fine with us, with me.
With that modification, do we need to revote? No? Okay. Mr. Fairfield?
On this sheet, it says it's 312,453. The other one, it says 375,000.
Right,
Which one are you going for?
this one,
This one? Okay.
Okay.
the one for less.
Okay.
One
Mr. Wheeler?
recommendation, between now and then, would it be okay, Sandy, if you reached out to state's attorney, make sure that because of the amount of money bidding, does this fall under personal service? Because all services are not equal in this
Okay.
aspect, just to make sure that we don't have to officially send out a bid notice. I think it's a good idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can do that.
State's attorney shaking his head back there, yes. Okay, who else? Somebody else had a question? Mr. Hunter?
Mr. Chairman, just kind of unique way of using the ARPA funds here. Mr. Chairman, Chairman Wheeler, is this consistent the way we've approved ARPA funds all along? Because this is the first.
Yes, we had clarification, and we vetted this versus the rules that Treasury's putting out. Both I and Finance have agreed that it does, because of these reasons that are in here. that it is reducing the amount of contact between people, and there are others doing similar projects on digitization. Now that it conforms with our policy that she's using her special funds, now it fits in with everything else.
Yeah,
we've done.
I understand that. I mean, that's clear. You know, this is just the first time I just heard that we're gonna be using, ARPA funds, but, you know, be that as it may, I trust, you know, your integrity on this matter. Thank you.
Anyone else? You know, I skipped a step. We have to vote in order to accept her monthly report. I need a first and a second. Mr. Lear, Mr. Swanson, second. All in favor, I guess you're done?
Yep.
All in
other
favor of accepting her report? Any opposed? Very good. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you very much, everybody.
That's pretty exciting. We're moving on with
Yes,
one of those projects.
one of those projects. And thank you all for who has come to tour, and I know you're new, so if you're willing to come and see what we've got, and you can see this big room of files, I'd be happy to show them to you. Just,
Yeah, you should
Yeah.
go see that. You should go see that basement. It's amazing.
yeah, thank you.
There's other descriptive words for it too, but this is a public place, so. All right, moving on. I think next up is State's Attorney's Office. Mr. Rowe?
No, we did.
Oh, Mike, very good. We're spending money. Thank you. Roll call, did we made the motion and second? Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hess? Aye. Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Lear?
Aye.
Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Ms. Parker? Aye. Mr. Fairfield? Aye. Mr. Carrico? Aye. Mr. Swanson?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Aye.
Mr. Hunter? Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Gowler?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler? Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. I need a motion to accept the report from the State's Attorney's Office. Mr. Hunter, Ms. Parker, Mr. State's Attorney, what do you have for us this morning?
It'll be pretty short. We've got 38 cases went to the last grand jury. So we're at 759 for the year. We're probably gonna finish hopefully under 1,000, but probably pretty close to it. So, and pretty consistent. I mean, you see the same type of offenses coming through. I don't know if any of you get the daily custody call or custody sheet, but the sheriff can tell you, I mean, every day there's domestic battery cases, people that are in custody for either a misdemeanor domestic, a felony domestic, or a warrant for domestic. It's been unfortunately pretty consistent. So,
Very good.
anyone have any questions about any of the numbers, the report? Okay.
Moving on to, is there some other things that you'd like to share with us?
No, that was it. I just, thank you everyone for supporting that partnership with Riverside. It means a lot to me and to everyone that's working with the kids in the juvenile justice system. We really hope that's going to be a game changer for them. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right. So that's the State's Attorney's report. Do we need a vote here? All in favor of accepting that report?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Next up is the Public Defender's Office, Ed Pennewick, and representing.
Yes, I'm not Ed Pendewick, but I'm here for him.
I need a motion to accept the Mr. Hunter, Mr. Kirkstra. Excuse me, would you tell us your name again? I've forgotten.
Yeah, it's Rebecca Soligny, Souligne, and I'm here for Mr. Pendewick.
Thank you.
I believe the report was filed with our current numbers. Does everybody have that, or do I have to? Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think, as Mr. Rose stated, a lot of the crime, the domestics are still there, still have a fair amount of gun cases. The jury trials are back, so we've been trying to get juries going and just plugging through there. I'm sure there's a big backlog, but we're doing what we can. any questions about the numbers of the report?
Okay. Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is more like if you could take this back to Ed. It'd be really nice to see what the those numbers were compared to the previous month, like the month-over-month change.
Okay.
It's something I try to keep in my head, and then I always forget right before the meeting, and I'm like, because some seem similar from month to month, to be honest.
Yeah.
And some are not moving, and that's why I would like to be able to ask specific questions and make general statements. Thanks.
I will bring that back. I do know that sometimes it's really hard to put on a piece of paper like this statistics that make sense. I mean, like, because like I will have a case for months and then it resolves or pleas or we have a trial. So it sometimes the reports don't really kind of, it's not a good way to really show you what we're doing. And sometimes we're correcting things. I know in the juvenile division, I went through and there were a whole bunch that should have been closed in previous months that like we're still out there. So some of this, I don't know how much of it, but some of this could be things that really had already closed that are just now getting reported. So like I don't, you know, it's a good oversight, but it's probably not specific.
Very good. That it?
That's it for me.
All right.
Oh.
Mr. Snipes.
This question probably be more so for Ed. I'm thinking I would like to kind of know, I don't know if you all will be able to know, but I know your office is inundated with a lot of cases, a caseload, a very heavy caseload, and just for my own thinking, I almost, is there a way that we can almost calculate, not that we encourage folks to plead, but because a lot of them do plead, and you lessen down, it looks, I mean, it becomes doable for both sides. What would be the cost savings of a plea versus going to a full-scale trial?
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, I guess we could extrapolate some, you know, like the cost of a jury trial. I mean, there are some estimates on that.
Expert witnesses.
Yeah, and things like that. I mean, I know from my perspective, I look at it at a case at a time. I don't encourage my clients to plea unless they want to, if the evidence supports it. So, you know, I don't look at it as we're saving time or money. I look at it, this is the client's life. I lay it out, they pick. A lot of them do plea because they're ready to move on, take responsibility and get going. Some of them plead because they think the offer is better than what they might get. I mean, that's the whole bargain, right?
Right.
They're offering 7. If you go to trial, you could get 15. Do you want the 7? Do you?
Right.
So, if everything went to jury trial, the system would collapse.
That's what I wanted to say.
It would absolutely collapse.
Right. It's not unique to your office.
Right. That's the way it is.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll just.
Mr. Hunter.
Yeah, just a question, Counselor. Is it feasible in your shop to use third-year law schools at all, students?
Well, there are occasions under the Supreme Court rules where we can use what's called a 711, which is a third-year person who is like studying to take the bar exam. And we have used 711s in the past. The problem is they have to be supervised by an attorney. So I don't know that they're greatly helpful because you got to sit there anyway. So if I'm sitting there anyway, might as well do the work. They are helpful, but they're limited in what they can do.
Okay. What do you have, and I think Will chastised me on this once when I had a discussion. Do you keep stats in terms of, kind of dovetails on what Mr. Snipes was referring to? Do you keep data on that ethnicity, on pleas, and all that stuff?
I don't believe we do.
Okay.
At least I have never, when I turn in my closed files, I've never asked what their ethnic background is or, you know, their race. So I doubt that the clerk is doing that as well. Our office staff is doing that.
Okay.
I mean, I guess we could try, because that information's in the police report, but
I was just wondering, is there a propensity for people who look like me to plead as opposed to somebody who looks like you? If there's a nexus.
you know, I can't say whether statistics would show that or not. I know how I personally approach cases, but again, as a system as a whole, is it more likely to plead based on race? I don't know the answer to that.
That's a fair response.
Any other questions? Have a motion and a second to accept the report. I think we already have that. All approving?
Aye.
Any nays? Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Latham, probation is up. Do I have a motion to accept? Mr. Carrico and Mr. Swanson second. Morning, Tom.
Good morning. I don't have anything to add to the monthly report unless anyone has any questions. It's pretty straightforward. No question.
Any questions out there?
Just one question, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Tom, thank you. And I think my church needs to get on the stick in terms of using some of the public service people that you got who are on probation. You know, I'm chairman of my trustee board, and we need to use those services that you're providing. Any update in terms of how that program's going? Because I think it's really a wonderful program.
Yes, and it's moving forward. It's moving a little slower, but it is moving forward. We're getting the numbers built up. The system we have to send out emails and text to anyone who needs public service work done, when sites request it, we can get that basically that burst out to everybody, has really gone well. When we do that, we get a good response from the individual. So I think as we get a lot of numbers and we can support more agencies calling us who need people, I think that's going to be a great way to get that, you know, people get their hours done, agencies get what they need done. Because before it was just trying to call people, contact people, you know, it just didn't happen well.
Is there any way you can maybe make a presentation at the County Mayors Association? Because I mentioned that to Mayor Curtis, and he wasn't fully aware of it, but that may help as well too.
Yeah, we've met with a couple mayors, but I know they have a meeting together. I'd be happy to discuss it with anybody. So let me know, and I'll be happy to.
Thank you.
And I can talk to Mayor Curtis if you.
Mr. Wheeler?
If it is of interest, just keep in mind, board members, that we are going to have that ability as a county board with our new website of sending out those alerts and people signing up. So it can be a similar type of alert for the entire county.
Okay.
We're not here to compete, but maybe there's a way we can coordinate.
Yeah, partnership with them. Yeah.
Because we might cast a bigger net.
It's just about getting it out to as many people as you can. It really helps the agencies because sometimes they need somebody this coming weekend for Oktoberfest or whatever it may be, and before we just couldn't get the people lined up in time. But this really helps with that. So,
Mr. Snipes?
Two quick questions, because I got a call asking if did I know, because the individual was trying, the pastor called and said the individual was trying to complete his hours and all of that, and it wasn't enough, I guess it wasn't enough places for them to, they didn't have a list of the sites they were going to them, and they said some of them didn't accept. Do we have a list of some sites where we have reoccurred? I sent them to St. Vincent's or wherever. I used to say the Salvation Army, because those are like the defaults, but do we have like any defaults?
yeah, we have a list. If they came in the office, we have a packet, and it's on that website too.
Oh, okay.
They can go on there and and that list we update it all the time.
Okay, so they can get it right off the site?
Yes.
They should know that.
All the sites on there are active right now. We go through it all the time to make sure there's nobody that falls off and just isn't, you know.
Oh, okay, and then also, our beds for juveniles or wherever, how is that going? Are we, the juvenile detentions, kind of down, or are we?
I think we have
rising?
6 in there right now. Overall, juvenile detention has been low for the last several years, really. I mean, we hover around 6. It seems like quite a bit, and don't hardly go above that. So that's where it's at today.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? We kind of got off topic or off order there. So was there anything else that you wanted to say about the juvenile detention report?
Well, just in your packet is that report Mr. Lear requested. We had that done already that was given to Mr. McCarty. Just to give you some background, new board members, you know, back in 2018, Will County bought us out of our ownership in that facility. It was appraised, and they bought us out for $5.5 million. 2.5 of that went to credit future bed space, the use of beds at the facility. And there was a set amount each year, and we have all that broken down. Well, the beginning balance of that agreement was there would be an ending balance of $289,000 going into county fiscal year 22. Because of some overage where we had some people in beds and we were charged extra for, it cost us just under $10,000. So that balance going into the next fiscal year is $279,000 and change. We've estimated that all out. I believe that's going to get us pay for our beds well into this next fiscal year. Our average detention days is about 2,500 days. I think it's going to be a little bit less than that in 22 because it's gone down each year. And then once that money's used up, then we would start paying a daily rate of $250 for the rest of this year. But I do believe that's going to get us well into this. That's probably about almost 1,200 detention days, a little over 1,100 detention days that money will cover. So well over half of what we're probably going to use in 22. Does that make sense?
Any questions about that?
I hope that.
Mr. Wheeler?
What's the indications of AOIC on juvenile pretrial?
Or just on pretrial in general?
Well, I mean, yeah, but juvenile as well. I mean, because if they take it, that's not our cost anymore.
Well, just for the adult world. The pretrial will not affect juveniles in any way.
It will not.
It will not affect juveniles in any way, no.
So they'll still be our burden, well, not burden, responsibility to pay for.
Yes, they'll still be our responsibility.
Okay. I thought maybe that was up in the air if they're taking all pretrial.
That hasn't been discussed yet.
Okay.
So for the benefit of most of us and some of the new, can you explain that a little bit?
The pretrial. The pretrial is the state. We have 4 positions, and they monitor and supervise anybody put on pretrial supervision. The state has been looking into taking that over for years, and they decided to do that. Just in August, they decided that. So we'll lose funding for those 4 positions. The state will take it over. Now the problem we're having now is, well, we had initially, we were going to have to keep that supervision going through January of 23. And I said to the board last month, I think that we're having major issues trying to fill those positions because it's short term. You know, who's going to take the job? I'm going to lose that in a year or so. Well, now they've changed that date to January of 25, which causes even more problems because now we have to keep that going longer. And again, who's going to take that position? I mean, it's a couple years. You're going to get hired and start looking for a new job. I have a meeting here very soon with, it should be with some individuals from AOIC, including Judge Smith, who oversees pretrial. To tell her we're having we had a meeting with the judges last week. Mr. Pennewick, Mr. Rowe, and everybody was there just to discuss, this is a major issue and how we're going to do this. I don't know how we're going to do it. I told the judges those positions are going to remain vacant. I don't know how. I mean, we'll try, but we have to go forward as if they're not going to be filled. And then how do we monitor all those people, and especially after January of 23 when no cash bail? That's when the numbers are really going to obviously go up. So it's a major issue, and I'm not confident in January 25 either. I think it's going to be turned to July of 25, January of 26. I think it's, and I don't know what we're going to do with it. I don't know how we're going to do it. I guess if you were fully staffed right now, it helped you a little bit maybe, because maybe people wouldn't bail as quick, jump ship as quick, because they had a little more time. But we had those positions vacant, and we couldn't fill them already. So that's what we're trying to deal with right now. Maybe every month I'll probably give an update to the committee, because it's always changing. Every phone call I have. The next part of this is they do have to change the Pretrial Services Act, make changes to that law. So there's now, some people are starting to lean on the representatives to try to, for that part of it. And that process has kind of started now, but we'll see. It's just a constant change all the time, and it's making more and more difficult for us. And I don't have any answers on how to supervise that, how we're gonna do it really right now.
Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you, and I apologize, I don't know the answer to this, I should, but have you communicated with Mr. McCarty on the need for us to include a half a year in juvenile detention in the budget?
Yeah, he has this, really, this
put
was,
it in there, because I didn't ask specifically about that. I was assuming that the last numbers I saw, we were gonna get through the year. This changed, obviously, so I just want to make sure what we vote on in a week from today, basically, is.
yeah, he really, this was updated for him.
Okay.
Of a while back.
Okay.
Yeah, so he has it.
He's got it, okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Latham? Have a motion and a second to accept his report. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Tom, thank you for what you do.
All right, thank you. And the only other thing is drug court auction has been postponed. It was going to be October 22nd, I believe. They ran into some issues, and we'll have a date out pretty soon. It's likely going to be in the spring. And they're getting all that out on social media and everything, so I just wanted to let the board know, the committee know. So.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Sheriff Downey. A motion to accept his report. Mr. Snipes and Ms. Parker second. Good morning.
Good morning. I've gone paperless. Monthly report is pretty standard, nothing really to report other than our out-of-county numbers. Our marshal's number is staying fairly steady. Our ICE number fluctuates. And we'll see what happens as we go forward. Questions on the report?
Any questions? Mr. Wheeler?
Just, I guess it's not on the report yet, but at some point, there's gonna be a lot of eviction stuff coming.
I have that on my list.
All right, thank you. I will sit down and wait for my answer.
I'm paperless. Just to piggyback off of what Tom talked about with pretrial, the Illinois Sheriff's Association, I know, is dealing with some issues too with this because it'll affect us as well. And we are joining in the discussion of what's going on with pretrial and the decisions to allow the state to take it over, and hopefully we can come to some resolution that works, especially for us, but works for everybody across the state. So also Jim talked about the domestics, and he's right. I mean, depending on the day you're looking, today I know there's one domestic battery arrest that we have in custody, but there have been days where we've had 12 custodies, and we've had 10 of those 12 custodies were in custody for domestic battery. So it is certainly an issue. We have, as I've talked to this committee before, we have separated out and got those that are charged with domestic battery into one housing unit. We are actually working with a group who provides services to those individuals, to the abusers, to help hopefully prevent them from coming back to jail for the same thing. So that is ongoing. We're really negotiating. Negotiating is not a proper term. We're trying to set up, because of the in and out of those in custody, we're trying to make sure that those who are in custody get the bulk of what they are trying to get across to these individuals as far as training. some are in longer than others, so it's been kind of an adjustment for the group that is coming in. So we'll continue to work on that. If you recall, I think last September, I think at the September board meeting, the full board approved the purchase of what are called Flock LPR cameras, license plate reader cameras. Interestingly enough, yesterday, as a matter of fact, we had a hit on a car that drove by one of our cameras that are installed that was stolen. And what happens is we get an alert on our cell phone that a car went by this camera at such and such a time. It's immediate, and it identifies the car as stolen. We actually had a car about 10 minutes away who actually located that vehicle, stopped it, pulled it over. It was a female who had an active warrant out of Florida and who admitted the car stolen out of Cook County. So early success. Hopefully, and I know there's some other agencies that are looking into these cameras as well, and hopefully those who choose to steal cars won't come to Kankakee County. So evictions, with the lifting of the moratorium, we have not seen initially the influx of evictions that we thought we would, but that process is ongoing in court. So once those landlords start going through all their proper procedures that they need to go through, I anticipate that our evictions will increase significantly, and we are prepared for it. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, they're coming. And the other side of it is we have to be compassionate on the one hand too, and see where we're at with, the problem with the eviction process and the moratorium is there were people out there who were renting who never missed a paycheck, never missed a dollar, who still didn't pay the rent because there was a moratorium. And that's the one thing that we didn't do is whoever made those rules, and I won't mention names, we just blanketed it. So, there are some people out there who could have paid the rent just like they did every month because they never missed a paycheck, and chose not to. So those are going to be problematic, but so we'll deal with the ones. Then there are those, on the other hand, who lost their job or didn't have a job or couldn't work for whatever reason because of COVID, who legitimately needed to have their rent suspended. So it'll be an interesting next 6 months when we go through all this stuff. So yesterday the full county board approved an intergovernmental agreement for the sheriff's office to provide policing in Aroma Park. I know there was a statement made that was somewhat disappointing, but nonetheless I understand it. But I can tell you that we contract with other municipalities, and I don't believe that this board has ever received any sort of complaint from those municipalities about the lack of what our officers are doing in those municipalities as far as policing, and I don't see that to be an issue moving forward with Aroma Park. To call the proceedings contentious, I think, was a little bit of an overstatement. There were certainly people who still wanted to keep their police department, and I understand that. But the board is the one who approached us, and we will provide police services out there as we do already when they're not on duty. So I don't see a whole lot of changing of police services. In fact, I see it a little bit better, because not only are we there when they're not, now we're going to be there as well during other hours specifically there. So I think it'll be a plus for Aroma Park, and I don't have a doubt in the world that our guys won't do a great job with it. So. And lastly, the ICE lawsuit status, at this point there is none. We've not heard anything back from the federal court. It's actually in federal court in Rockford, and we have not heard anything back from that case yet. So I will keep you up to date as we hear it. That's it.
Any questions out there about the report?
I have animal control.
Okay, animal control.
Kennels are full. That's about the animal control report. Our kennels are full. We have a budget that I know Carrie Laird has been working with Steve on for 2022. So any of you out there, whether board members or in the back, who are in need of a dog or a cat, go see Carrie. We'll find one for you. So that's all I got.
Anything else? Very good. We have a motion and a second on the sheriff's report. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, everybody.
you.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Next up, coroner's report. We have a motion to accept his report. Mr. Smith, Mr. Snipes. Good morning, Bob.
Morning, Chairman.
How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I'll go over our summary report for September. Basically, our calls are continually going up, and which is also brings our autopsies up also. As you can see, the homicides have gone double than what they were last year. Suicides are up on us, and fatalities, motor vehicle fatalities are up. These are all things that have to be posted. As far as the number of ODs in the county, we're at 35 cases right now with 5 pending, which is probably most likely to be 40. The average age is still at 44, 26 males, 9 females. And again, the fentanyl is a big factor, as I continually say in every month. I don't even see hardly any heroin anymore. It's all fentanyl and cocaine. So it's a mixture. It's something we're constantly, and I keep saying to myself, thank God we have Narcan, or our numbers would be well up, even farther. So, other than that, we keep all of our statistics for all of you on our website, KenkeCountyCoroner.org. It's updated every day to where we're at as far as everything, as far as COVID and all that. It's all on there on our website also. I'll take any questions that you have.
Ms. Parker has a question.
Number 8. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gessner, I am concerned about children, young adults, buying what is called like a drug that online, but it's laced with fentanyl. There's been several overdoses from that. Have we seen that the Oxycontin, and it was mixed with a little bit of fentanyl? Are we seeing any of that in Kankakee County? And then I have another question after this answer.
Yes, we are seeing a little more of Oxycontin. I read a lot of literature on that, and it's all around us. Will County has almost tripled their overdoses, which will lead down to us.
Is a concern. I'm also concerned about the drugs being brought over and the border. And what I was listening to something on TV, and I just wanted to ask you if this is true, that if someone has the fentanyl and it accidentally gets on the ground, if an animal walks, or even maybe if they're feeding off the grass or whatever, can that harm the animal? They're saying that the animals in Texas are dying.
Absolutely, that's why all of the, one of the things I did when we did the Narcan is made sure all the canine dogs had Narcan, because you can use Narcan on that and bring them back.
Just 1 grain that can do that. And how can we even get through to these kids about buying drugs online? First of all, how can they do that? And second of all, do they not realize how dangerous fentanyl is? I know I preach it in my class, and I'm just scared to death for these kids.
Well, one of the things is that we've been blocked from going out to different places
Exactly.
to be able to preach on it. I've asked churches after churches, and I can't get into them at all to maybe talk to the congregation or whatever. And schools-wise, we try to get out as much as we can. I know Eric just got through teaching Career Center. They were able to come out to our place.
I asked for permission for both you and Mr. Rowe to come talk to my speech class where I'm teaching part-time. And the school was interested in, so I would like to set up a time when you and Mr. Rowe can both come and talk to some high school kids that they're taking a college class, but I think this is something, because I was talking about it in class one day as an example, and they had no idea. And I thought, what a great idea if we could get Mr. Rowe and you to come in and maybe talk to them for 20 minutes or so.
I would love to, and I'll set a date aside whenever you need to, and I'll be
Great.
there. And I'm sure Mr. Rowe, I'll make sure he'll come with me.
Yeah, he said he would come.
Yeah, he
and,
would.
and I think that they just don't understand the severity of fentanyl.
I would love to say that. And I've been approached just this morning about doing something on the radio stations and the journal. So I will be doing something soon.
Great. I'll try to get you some more bookings as your agent.
Thank you. I'd be more than happy to. You know that.
I know that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stipes?
Just one question. Looking at the report, I understand homicides, I understand firearms, I understand suicide, but can you just shed some light on what is considered an undetermined death?
Undetermined is when we unable to determine, mostly like comes out of SIDS on babies or something like that, where we can't see anything. We've done a number of tests on toxicologies, all we can possibly do, we come back undetermined at all. Can't determine it.
Okay, that's what I understand.
I mean, it's very. That's basically what the word is. Undetermined is, and that's put on the death certificate. Undetermined, the mode of death.
Anyone else? So I have a question. You have the statistics on how many deaths, and it's probably not your wheelhouse, but how much Narcan are we using? Would that help us to know that statistic?
I do. I meet at once a month at Riverside, and they have a group together, and it tells you about what the ERs are doing and what all the ambulances are doing out there. I didn't bring that statistics with me, but I can bring that to you at the next meeting.
It'd be interesting to see how often that's being used in the field.
It's used a lot. When the police officer does it, they automatically send their form to me, and then I send it to Riverside, and they send it down to the state. So it's a large amount, and every place we go on overdoses, we see the Narcan. So the health department is distributing that. But other than that, I'll bring some statistics with you. They're really remarkable. Well, thank God we have
maybe
that.
Help us understand the situation better.
Got you. I will.
Thank you. Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you. I do have a question, but it reminded me, the dealers actually have the Narcan. They don't want dead customers. Yeah. And so it'd be hard to get that information. They're not going to tell you their stats on how many people they saved so they can come back. But I'm sure you have good information on the law enforcement hospital side. So there's always going to be that missing component. At one point they were taking that as payment. As part of the payment was the Narcan because they needed a supply. Again, you don't want dead customers. So that's pretty morbid to think like that, but that's the way a lot of
we've learned that if they buy drugs in a certain area here in the county, that they have to do their drug right there, whether they're going to inject it, snort it, smoke it, whatever, right there, because they'll tell them that they have the Narcan in case they go down. And you remind yourself, they want to be as close to death as possible. That's the name of the game on that.
The question I had was, I can't get this information out of the state or out of the health department. And I don't know if you have access to this info, but you have a great information on COVID on your website. Are you able to have numbers of people that have been vaccinated that have passed? because of COVID?
No.
Or just as a comorbidity, if you will?
No.
You wouldn't know if they were vaccinated or not, okay?
I know right now, we've reached 111 through the year, and 12 in September, and four deaths in October. We keep track of all that stuff. Eric puts it on the website every day. He goes after that.
It just seems like that's a phantom number that everybody should want to know. You know, if you're vaccinated, what's the percentage of those people that are actually passing away? I would say it's probably very, very, very low, but that's just a guess because we don't have the data. And nobody can seem to, and I'm not chastising you, I think the state should have it, or the health department.
My mind's thinking right now that I might be able to get some of that information.
You might be able to have access to if they're vaccinated.
I might be able to, through people that I know through, yeah.
Okay. It'd be a great statistic to take a look at, because I don't know anybody that's reporting it. So, thank you.
Good point.
Mr. Snipes, go ahead.
That's one other question.
Oh, I thought you only had one.
Oh, that's what I had until I saw the gift of hope and some of the other individuals that Cigna that was inquiring on the freedom of information, and we charge for that. Or is that some? Because I'm looking at different dollar amounts after that or whatever.
Do we charge gift of hope?
Well, it says freedom of information. That was my words, but the gift of hope, I thought they were bringing back to life. I don't know why. I mean, I see they're getting reports, so I was wondering what does that entail when they have a cost on a freedom of information? Is there? You got FOIA, freedom of information.
Yeah.
But there's a cost added to. How's that?
Cost added to them?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that? Yeah, go ahead.
So we cannot charge Gift of Hope for their services that they provide, and families, that's a no cost to families as well. Anytime there's a Gift of Hope case, they FOIA the report for their records, and as part of the FOIA process, we're able to obtain the fee that the state has assessed for those documents. That's what's on there.
Oh,
Make sense? Just like anybody else, if they FOIA'd it, they would have to pay for it as well. Got it?
Correct. Thank you.
Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, I know I'm probably going to sound redundant. I remember one of my charges as vice chairman of the NAACP, we had you, Jim Rowe, K. Meg, I can't remember who else came and made a presentation on overdoses, fentanyl, and all the related stuff to that. Tinker comments kind of rang a bell in terms of you going to her school, Bishop Mack, in terms of all the data that you would be able to present, as likewise probably with the state's attorney. Had you thought about maybe doing something on YouTube that would help as well too? Because it seems like when you know better, you do better. That's what I maintain. But if, let's say, for example, you did a back in the day, last century, we used to have assemblies on different things, speeding, car accidents, and they show the real catastrophes, blood and guts and all that stuff. If indeed you did assembly, or at her school or in her particular class, and you YouTube that thing, and our kids and our people look at that stuff, and maybe that would help with some of that stuff. I'm not sure.
That's a good question, and I can tell you that working with the health department with the grants we got there, we are working on a forum. If not, we're going to produce it like on what you said, YouTube it. And that we're looking to do that probably after the first of the year, trying to put something together on that. So we are looking into that. That's the only way we can get out there. I appreciate that comment, but we are working on that.
Very good. Anything else?
Nope, that's not all I got.
Any other questions? I have a motion and a second. All in favor of accepting Bob's report? Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Thank you for what you do. I think we always learn something when, in this criminal justice meeting from everybody that shows up here, so, thank you.
No, thank you.
Very good. Moving on to new business and or old business. Anybody got anything they want to bring to the criminal justice meeting? Very good. Mr. Kush? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
It's not my day today.
Motion in a second? Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm out of here. Take your